Welcome to the Cycle of Mind podcast. I'm Alan Gordon, and I'm on a mission to wake everyone up to the awesome power of mind. You see, most people sleep their entire lives. They never give any thought to their purpose. They live their lives on autopilot with the same beliefs, acting out the same habits and the same dramas that they've lived with for decades. It's time to wake up and explore your full potential. No more settling for less. I want you to start thinking about mind in a totally different way. Mind is a force, and every moment of the day, whether you're intentionally choosing your thoughts or, like most people, you're subconsciously running on autopilot, either way, you are directing the creative power of mind. So why not choose your thoughts on purpose? Your tomorrow cannot be any different than your today until you start to take full responsibility for your beliefs, your thoughts, and your actions. So let's learn about the infinite possibilities of mind and work together to create a future we can all be proud of. A future that's based on character, values, and principles. Welcome back. I'm Alan Gordon, creator of the Cycle of Mind system of mental coaching. Now, when you're done listening to this podcast, I have a little bit of work for you to do. I want you to subscribe to the podcast so you can get announcements for new episodes. I want you to post a 5-star review. Most importantly, I want you to register for the free course in happiness. That will get you on the right path. And now I'll be doing live streams, so feel free to keep in touch with me on my live streams where I'll always be talking about different topics. Today I want to talk about moral compass. Last year, my grandsons came to visit us. They were 1 year old and 2 years old at the time, just babies. So I went on Amazon and I shopped around for baby toys and I ended up with some bright plastic yellow, red, and blue boats that they could play with in the bathtub. Now, we never used a bathtub, but the grandkids, when they're over, they love bath time with their grandma. It's one of the special things that they love about being here. Now, these boats, when they're in the bathtub, they just bob up and down with the waves, right? Wherever the power of the waves takes them, they drift with the power of the water. In my podcast episode on polarity, and I'll put a link to it in my blog on my website, I showed you how we have two natural instincts. Our first instinct is to protect ourselves, to protect our own interests. And our second instinct is compassion. We have an instinct to help others. And we were born this way. It's part of the way we're designed. All life has these two instincts. We have two opposite poles. On the positive pole is compassion, and on the negative pole is self-interest. And each one of us is like one of these little plastic boats. We're just floating between these two instincts. Now, the vast, vast, vast majority of people in the world are in the middle. They're definitely not greedy. They're just normal people. But they also don't spend their evenings helping local charities. They get home from work and they just turn on the TV and they watch TV. They're just normal people. They're not overly compassionate, but they're also not mean. They're just nice people, like most of the people you'll meet. And all of us, we just drift in our lives somewhere in between being greedy, no, we're not greedy, and being compassionate. Well, no, we kind of keep to ourselves. Now, some people really are greedy and mean. And their little toy boats, they float closer to the self-interest pole. They're actually trying to be mean. And then there are other people who really do spend their evenings helping with charitable causes. They float much closer to the compassionate pole. They're actually trying to be nice. Now, I'm going to make a statement. Is there good? Is there bad? Is there better? Is there worse? Yes, it's better to be compassionate than it is to be mean and greedy. It's better to be compassionate than it is to be mean and greedy. In 1987, we heard in the movies the famous line, how greed is good. And I talked about in another episode how the 1980s was the marker in time where we lost our civil connection, where greed and self-interest became an accepted principle. And 40 years later, we're living with those consequences. We're so divided as a society that we can't even imagine ourselves how we could get more divided. And then we turn on the news and we say, oh yeah, that's right. It gets even worse. Every day is worse. Every day we seem to hit another new low in our division. It's better to be compassionate than it is to be mean and greedy. There is a better and worse. There is a right and wrong. There's no debate. Every single ancient wise person, every single wise person that's ever walked the earth has told us the exact same thing. Be compassionate. Serve others. Put the needs of others before your own self-interest. Now we have a pull, we have an instinct that draws us to self-interest. But this is the most important thing I can say. Just because we are drawn to self-interest, it doesn't mean we have to chase it. We can choose our own character, values, and principles. We're above all other animals, and we can choose our own thoughts and behaviors. We are not slaves to our instincts and emotions. We, alone among all animals, can choose our own thoughts. We can no longer just float through life. It's not acceptable. Sometimes we're kind and compassionate. Other times we're self-interested. We can't just go on being neutral. Each of us must develop a moral compass. And when we have that moral compass, we must point it directly toward compassion. And it's this moral compass that should guide all of our thoughts and all of our actions. Follow the advice of every enlightened being throughout history. Point your whole life toward compassion. Help others. Serve others. Be kind to others. Be generous with others. But because our instinct of self-interest is actually very real, we worry that if we help other people, if we really follow our heart and we really help other people and we really try to express the compassionate side of our nature, then we're not going to have enough for ourselves. You'll hear them say something like, show me a compassionate person and I'll show you a poor person. So realistically, I've got to look out for my own self-interest. I have rent to pay. I have a mortgage to pay. I have bills and expenses. And so we put off the compassionate side of our nature until later, until all our needs are fulfilled. But I'm telling you that if you devote your life to compassion, if you devote your life to healing others, if you can devote your life to serving others, lifting them up, bringing joy into their lives, we will take care of you. And that's the reason we're here with each other. We're here to take care of each other. That's our purpose. We must set aside our self-interests and commit ourselves to compassion. And as we commit ourselves to compassion, we have to fully support everyone else who's doing that, who's making that effort. But the government, the leaders, they really have to go first, right? They have to assure us that if we devote our life to compassion, that the government will take care of us. We don't want to devote our life to compassion and end up out on the street. So until the government takes care of us, we really have to think about our own security. We have to take responsibility for our own lives. But do we really have to wait to begin compassion? Let's think about it. What do we lose by being compassionate? What do we lose by committing everything to our moral compass? I know there's a lot of different kinds of people listening to this podcast, right? But if you're listening and you're a teacher, and by the way, you should forward this podcast to every teacher you know. If you're a teacher, just snap your fingers right now and say, from this moment on, I will devote my life to helping my students loving them, caring deeply about them, being a light in their lives, guiding them to always bettering themselves and make them feel like they can accomplish anything, even the ones that are difficult, especially the ones that are difficult, because they need my love and my compassion more than anyone. You see, teaching gives you an opportunity to spread compassion to your students. And guess what? You don't have to leave your job to be compassionate. I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's easy for a teacher to spread compassion. Teacher has students. But my job, maybe it's not so simple. So if you're listening and you own a business, and by the way, there are 6 million businesses in the United States. I don't know how many there are worldwide, but that means there's 6 million business owners. And please forward this podcast to all those 6 million business owners. So if you're a business owner, I want you to snap your fingers right now and say, from this moment on, I will run my business with compassion. I will care for my employees. I will give them a great environment to work in. And together with my employees, we are going to take awesome care of our customers. And I know that my business is going to grow every day as our reputation for good customer service becomes known. I know. It's easy for a teacher to be compassionate. They've got students. It's easy for a business person to be compassionate. They've got employees and customers, but maybe it's not so easy for me to do it. Well, maybe you're blessed with some special talent. Maybe you're actually famous, or maybe you just have followers and influence over others. Snap your fingers right now and commit to use your talent, to use your ability, to use your power, to use all the popularity you have to serve those in need. Use your popularity to rally thousands, millions around your cause, helping those who can't help themselves. I know it's easy for a professional athlete. They can just start their own charity, or someone has 1 million followers on YouTube. They can just start some charity. But I'm just a mom or a dad with a regular job. We struggle for money every month. We have our own problems we have to deal with. Well, if you're just a regular mom or a regular dad, snap your fingers and say, for the rest of my life, I will be the best parent and partner I know how to be. I am going to be great at my job. I'm going to spread a great attitude to my coworkers. And then when I'm with my children, I will always bring them happiness. I will always build their lives up. And I will, most importantly, teach them the importance of compassion. Because when you're a dad, everyone in the family takes their cues from you. If you sit in your easy chair with the remote control and you yell at your kids because they're ruining your Sunday, then that's what you get back from your family. When you're a mom and you're screaming at your kids, that's what you get back from your family. Your children live on your smile and your love. That's their oxygen. That's how they're going to grow. You see, whatever you do, positive or negative, you create your own reality. You decide how other people respond to you. Your own thoughts, words, behaviors control how others respond to you. So, whoever you are, whatever you do, whoever depends on you, snap your fingers and get yourself a moral compass. We must set aside our self-interests and commit ourselves to compassion. And the only way to do this is one person at a time. You don't have to be poor to be compassionate. You don't have to give up your job. You don't have to sacrifice anything to be compassionate. In fact, it's the opposite. When you're compassionate, your life actually improves. And you can be compassionate anytime you want. Just snap your fingers. It's a choice. I live in the United States, and about every 2 weeks, we have a horrible mass shooting. And by the time we process the shock of the mass shooting, the news has moved on to the next big thing and the next big thing, and then the next horrific shooting, and then the next. And all these mass shootings are like an awful blur. I clearly remember months ago, maybe over a year ago, There was one school shooting in particular that was really bad, and all the famous news anchors flew to that one high school, and they did their reporting from that high school. And they said with all the confidence, "We're looking at this shooting from every angle. Where did this young man get this gun? Was it legally obtained? We'll find out. Why are semi-automatic weapons still legal in America? Were there any signs of this child's behavior? Was he a bully? Was he being bullied? We're going to find out. Will Congress finally act this time and finally pass gun control legislation? Or will this be just another tragedy?" I watched those news broadcasts, and obviously they were reporting the details of the crime, but they all missed the real point. Because here's my question. How is it possible in our society that a 17-year-old boy could feel so alone, so hopeless, so angry, so confused, so unloved, that he felt that the only way out of his nightmare was to murder his classmates? What kind of a society have we created? What is it about our society that leaves so many young men and women feeling isolated, feeling disrespected, feeling unloved? You see, this is our great responsibility to change the world. We have to make it better, to create a world where children know that they're loved, where people know that they're respected, and where each of us feels safe with each other. Do not wait for others. Don't wait for them to commit to their own moral compass. Don't look to the left or to the right to see what other people are doing. Look straight ahead and know that others will be inspired by you. Because when you are compassionate, you're triggering their inner impulse to help others. Anytime you hear a story of compassion, we all get inspired. Don't take your moral compass from anyone else. You must take the lead. And as soon as you do take the lead in compassion, it spreads to everyone you touch. If you embrace your moral compass, the whole world moves closer to compassion. And the only way to move the world is for each one of us individually to make that commitment. I admit, it's true, it can be frustrating. While you and I are on this podcast, we're talking about compassion, there are other people who are talking about being greedy and cruel. But selfishness causes other people around them to be selfish because it triggers their instinct towards self-interest. Selfishness is a disease that spreads to everything it touches. And that's why every wise person has always said the same thing. Selfishness infects the mind. Compassion heals the mind. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do or what your story is today. It doesn't matter how rich you are or how poor you are or how famous or obscure. Your current circumstances are of no importance because whoever you are, you can rewrite your own story by simply making a choice to keep your mind focused on compassion. And that's what the cycle of mind system allows you to do, to choose new thoughts and to keep your mind on those thoughts. The cycle of mind is a thought management system. And I'm the first one to warn you, changing a lifetime of beliefs is not easy. It's like riding a wild bronco that's trying to buck you off his back. But if you hang on tight, if you persistently manage your thoughts, soon enough, you will tame your mind and then be able to direct mind to your own purpose and desires. If you can hold tight to your moral compass, if you can guide your mind to compassion, your life will be filled with blessings. Your life will be a heaven of your own creation. But for those who are driven by self-interest, they create the experience of hell for themselves and everyone around them. See, our thoughts, our words, our behaviors create a heaven of our own making or a hell of our own making. And the difference is compassion or self-interest. I started out by saying that our purpose in life is to take care of one another. And that's true, but really, it's much more than that. We're not just here to take care of one another. We're here to motivate one another. We're here to love one another and make sure that they know that they have a safe place with us. We're here to respect one another and lift others up to the best life they can imagine. And even more important than helping other people, what we're really here for is to help the future, to create a better future. With hate, with self-interest and greed and cruelty, the future is not bright. It's just not a bright future. We can create a much brighter future if we all can agree that first, we need a moral compass, and second, that compassion is the right direction to point that moral compass. I want you to start the free course in happiness. I want you to begin to learn how to focus your own thoughts to positive. It's easy, and you can make yourself happier. And of course, when you're happy, people around you are going to be happy as well. I want you to follow the Cycle of Mind on Facebook and Instagram so we can keep in touch with you. I want you to join the Cycle of Mind Facebook group. And I'm going to start to be doing live streams on a regular basis, so keep in touch with me and feel free to speak with me on my live streams. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for at least considering to take the next step toward keeping your mind focused on compassion. If you enjoy the topic of mind, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast so I can get you notifications when new episodes become available. We're only just scratching the surface here. We have so much more ground to cover on the topic of mind. If you want to support this podcast, the best thing you could do today is go to the Apple Podcast app and give the Cycle of Mind podcast a 5-star rating and a 5-star review. I would be very grateful if you did that. Also, feel free to jump onto my Facebook group where we're always talking about mind, and I'm going to be having some live Q&A sessions on Facebook very soon. For those of you who want to dig deeper into the Cycle of Mind system and begin taking control of your own thoughts, your first step would be to register for a course in self-awareness. That will get you plugged into the system and on the right path. Thank you very much to all those who are actively supporting this podcast. Have a great day today. How can you make it a great day? Well, here's how. Keep your mind focused on compassion.